Some people just aren't cut out for this line of work, Victor announced, leaning back in his chair as the room fell silent. I've given you opportunity after opportunity, Clara, but your work still isn't meeting our standards. This formal warning will go in your file today. A dozen colleagues avoided eye contact. My heart sank, tension rising in my chest. I had been blindsided during the weekly team meeting. A public display meant to humiliate me in front of everyone I'd worked alongside for 5 years. The document Victor pushed across claimed I had failed basic performance standards and showed ongoing incompetence. But it didn't tell the truth. I had uncovered his reckless decision to bypass crucial safety procedures. Before I continue, I want to thank everyone tuning in. Drop a comment sharing where you're watching from. I'm always amazed at how far these stories reach. I'm Clara. I worked as a quality assurance specialist at Apex Tech Solutions, known for meticulous attention to detail. Friends used to call me Microscope Clara, because I could spot even the tiniest flaws others overlooked. My perfectionism made me excellent at my job but terrible at letting mistakes slide. I grew up in Riverview, where my father repaired farm machinery. He taught me that doing a job properly meant doing it safely. Shortcuts hurt people, he'd say, showing me how to check hydraulic lines or secure heavy equipment. This wasn't just advice. His brother lost 3 fingers because someone rushed a repair. When I started my career, I carried those values with me. I believed in Apex Tech's mission, creating reliable, safe products. For 5 years, I thrived. My performance reviews praised my meticulousness and commitment to excellence. After 3 promotions, I became the lead quality specialist for our newest product line. Everything changed when Victor Lang transferred from the company's overseas division. He replaced my previous manager, Linda Shaw, who had retired after 22 years. Where Linda valued thoroughness, Victor worshipped speed. We're not here for perfection, he declared at our first team meeting. We're here to meet delivery deadlines. At first, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe his aggressive timelines would push us to be more efficient without sacrificing quality. I volunteered for extra projects, stayed late, and streamlined my review processes. For 2 months, the uneasy balance held. Then came the Orion project. Our new flagship product, the BioBand X, was a wearable health monitoring device. The company had poured millions into its development, and executives expected market domination. Victor had personally promised the CEO an earlier release, 1 month ahead of schedule. My team received the final prototype on Monday morning. We had 10 days for complete quality testing, less than half our usual timeline. Don't overthink it, Victor said. It's mostly the same technology as the previous model with minor upgrades. Standard testing should be enough, but it wasn't. The new power system produced far more heat during extended use. By day 3, I noticed a worrying issue. Under certain conditions, the device housing could reach temperatures that might burn skin. I documented the problem and ran additional tests, confirming the results. Either the design had to change or the warnings needed to be much stronger. When I presented my findings, Victor glanced at my report for under 30 seconds. "This is within acceptable limits," he said, sliding the tablet back, "but the temperature exceeds safety thresholds by 5.2 degrees. I argued, enough to cause burns if someone wears it overnight." His smile never reached his eyes. "Those conditions are extreme. No real user would operate it that way. They mirror how our marketing tells people to use it," I said softly. Victor leaned in, lowering his voice. "Clara, do you understand what's at stake? The CEO approved my timeline. A design change delays production by months. If someone gets hurt, I've made my decision. We're going forward." I left his office, stomach churning, and barely slept that night. I reviewed the company's policy manual until 2:30 a.m. and discovered that safety concerns could be escalated directly to compliance, if a manager ignored them. The next morning, I submitted my findings to compliance, copying Vanessa Cruz, the compliance director, and including Victor as protocol required. 20 minutes later, Victor appeared at my desk, calm as ever but with all corporate pleasantness gone. I followed him down the hallway, heart racing. He shut the door behind us. "You went over my head," he said, voice eerily calm. I followed the safety escalation procedure. I replied, trying to sound steady. "I know the policy," he said, staring at me. "I also know when someone's trying to undermine me. You raised concerns. I addressed them. That should have been the end. Now you've created a paper trail suggesting I ignored a safety issue. Do you understand what that does to my standing with leadership? That wasn't my intention," I whispered. Victor's voice was cold. "Intentions don't matter in business, Clara. Results do, and your actions have triggered a compliance review that will delay production and cost us millions." He was right about one thing. Compliance immediately suspended the Orion project launch pending investigation. Engineers confirmed my findings and recommended redesigning the BioBand X cooling system. The timeline Victor had promised the executives was now impossible, and it was clear he intended to make me pay. Retaliation began subtly. My name vanished from meeting invites. When I asked why, Victor brushed it off, saying they were strategy sessions that didn't require quality input. Colleagues stopped including me in lunches. Project updates reached me late, leaving me scrambling to complete reviews under impossible deadlines. Then came the criticism. Every report I submitted returned with demands for revisions. Work that had previously been praised as meticulous was now deemed unnecessarily detailed. During team meetings, Victor would question my methods publicly. "Clara, these testing parameters seem excessive. Why are you wasting resources?" Before I could explain, he would move on, leaving the impression that I was incompetent. Other team members noticed and began distancing themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with someone under the manager's scrutiny. Week by week, the isolation worsened. Hallway conversations ceased. Colleagues who once sought my advice avoided eye contact. 3 months after the Orion project incident, Victor scheduled my performance review. Unlike previous years, where we discussed goals together, he had already completed the evaluation. "Below expectations in all categories," he said, sliding the document toward me. "Your performance has dropped dramatically this quarter." I stared in disbelief. Even where I had measurable success, he marked me as failing. "This doesn't reflect my work," I said. "The Phoenix component tests were completed 2 days early with 0 defects. The methodology is flawed," he replied without looking up. "The results aren't reliable. The methodology has been used for 3 years," I said. He sighed as if explaining to a child. "This attitude is exactly the problem, Clara. You're resistant to feedback and difficult to work with." "Who says?" I asked. I'd never received complaints before. "That's not for me to discuss. Sign the review, please." I didn't. Instead, I wrote a detailed rebuttal, citing specific projects, metrics, and outcomes contradicting his claims. The next day, he reassigned half my projects, telling me my workload needed to match my capabilities. The message was clear: oppose him, and he would dismantle my career piece by piece. Weeks passed, and the pressure escalated. Deadlines shifted overnight. Documents disappeared until hours before deliverables were due. And no matter how well I completed work, Victor found fault. "This analysis lacks depth," he said during a review of the newest component. I had less than 4 hours with the specs. I reminded him. "You moved the deadline up yesterday. Planning is part of the job," he replied. "Sounds like excuses." The stress began affecting my health. I developed insomnia, waking at 2:30 a.m. with my heart racing, rehearsing the day ahead. I lost weight. Friends asked if I was sick. I was sick, with anxiety, dread, and the constant feeling of walking on eggshells. One Monday morning, I found a note on my desk. Nobody wants to work with you anymore. Why don't you quit?" I looked around, but everyone was focused on their screens. The isolation had become a physical presence, shadowing me through the building. That evening, I called my oldest friend, Vanessa, in tears. "I don't understand what's happening. One minute I'm valued, the next I'm treated like I'm radioactive. Have you spoken to HR?" She asked twice. The first time, the representative listened sympathetically, but suggested a style mismatch with Victor. The second time, they promised to look into it. But nothing changed. Now I suspected Victor had allies there, too. "Consider looking for another job," Vanessa suggested. I had begun applying, but Victor made it nearly impossible. A recruiter told me they had called for a reference. Victor reported me as technically incompetent and unreliable. He was poisoning my reputation across the industry. "You need to protect yourself, Clara. Document everything," Vanessa said. That night, I logged every incident since the Orion report. Dates, times, witnesses, exact quotes. I combed email archives for evidence of shifting timelines and contradictory instructions. A clear pattern of targeted harassment emerged. I also discovered that under state law, I could legally record conversations without Victor's consent. The next day, I downloaded a recording app. When Victor summoned me for one of his attitude adjustment meetings, I pressed record before entering. "Close the door," he said without looking up. I did and sat across from him. He made me wait nearly 2 minutes. "Clara, we need to discuss the Archer component testing delay," he began. "There was no delay," I said. I submitted the report ahead of schedule. The timeline changed. The team needed results Monday. "I was never informed," I replied. Victor leaned back, almost amused. "Communication goes both ways. You need to stay connected, not isolated. Your attitude disrupts collaboration." For 30 minutes, he listed my supposed failures, interrupted my responses, and blamed me for situations he engineered. I let him speak, my phone silently capturing every word. This became our routine, weekly private criticism sessions, always without witnesses. Publicly, he was courteous. Privately, the mask came off. "Let's be honest," he said during one recording. "Your career here is finished. Will you leave voluntarily or wait to be pushed out?" "Is that a threat?" I asked quietly. "It's reality." I spoke to department heads. "No one wants to work with you after the Orion debacle. You're seen as disloyal, someone who throws teammates under the bus." I reported a legitimate safety concern. I said, "You embarrassed the company and cost us millions." He laughed. "Always the hero in your own story, aren't you?" Over the next 2 months, I collected 17 recordings of private meetings, dozens of emails showing changed instructions, and a daily log of ongoing hostility. My health continued to deteriorate. Stress, induced gastritis, anxiety, and hives appeared. My doctor recommended medical leave. I took 3 weeks, using the time to consult an employment attorney, Jada Ellis, who specialized in workplace harassment. She reviewed my evidence and confirmed my suspicion. This was textbook retaliation. The timing was undeniable. The negative treatment started immediately after I reported the safety issue. "What should I do?" I asked her. "First, we'll file a formal complaint with the company's legal department documenting the pattern of retaliation," Jada explained. "Then we can consider filing with the state labor board. They take whistleblower retaliation very seriously." "Will I keep my job?" I asked. She softened. "Honestly, Clara, that environment is toxic. Even if we stop the retaliation, working there will remain difficult. But we can fight for severance and ensure Victor faces consequences." She was right. The thought of returning made me physically ill, but another concern weighed heavily. What about the safety issue? Victor had buried my report, convinced compliance it was an overreaction, and pushed the bioband X forward anyway. "That's a separate but related issue," Jada said. "If the company ignored genuine safety concerns, regulatory authorities need to know." The day my medical leave ended, I submitted my resignation along with a formal complaint to Apex Tech Solutions Legal Department, including selected recordings clearly showing Victor's behavior. 2 days later, I received a call from the company's senior legal counsel, Tyler. "We've reviewed your materials and would like to discuss a separation agreement," he said. "I'm listening," I replied. Tyler offered 3-month severance, extended health benefits, and neutral employment references. Following Jada's coaching, I declined. "That doesn't address the safety concerns that started this situation," I said. Tyler's tone hardened. "Clara, the company stands by its safety protocols. Orion project modifications were out of caution, not necessity. Engineering deemed your findings inconclusive." I realized then that Victor's narrative had prevailed internally. The company was protecting him and itself. My resignation had been their easy solution. With Jada's guidance, I filed formal complaints with the State Labor Commission for whistleblower retaliation. Then I submitted my original safety report, testing data, and evidence of Victor's suppression to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Finding a new job was almost impossible. Victor's influence had spread warnings through the industry. 3 promising interviews ended with polite rejection emails. Recruiters stopped returning my calls. At my lowest point, I moved back to Riverview, took a job at the local hardware store, and wondered if standing up for safety had destroyed my career. Then came a phone call that changed everything. "Is this Clara?" a professional woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Diane Lopez. I'm an investigator with the State Labor Commission. We've reviewed your retaliation complaint and want to interview you next week." That single call renewed my hope. Someone was taking my claims seriously. During the meeting, I provided Diane with all my evidence, recordings, emails, timelines, and medical records, documenting the physical toll of the harassment. "This is unusually well documented," she said. "Most cases are he said, she said, but you've provided clear evidence." I explained I had to protect myself, no one else would. Diane asked about the safety report I had submitted. Any action taken? Not that I know of. She noted that such cases often interconnect. Companies retaliating against safety reporting often have broader issues. She was right. 3 weeks later, I received another call from the Consumer Product Safety Commission requesting a detailed statement about the Orion testing and Victor's decision to proceed despite risks. For 2 months, I continued working at the hardware store. The simplicity of helping customers was a relief after years of corporate politics, though my bank account suffered. Then Naomi, a former colleague, texted me, "Are you seeing what's happening?" I called immediately. She whispered, "The company's under federal investigation. The safety people arrived last week with warrants, reviewing all products certified in the last 2 years. And Victor, he walked into a promotion interview expecting executives, and instead found government investigators with copies of your reports and recordings." I sank onto my couch, speechless. Victor was escorted out. HR emailed confirming administrative leave pending investigation. Everyone knew he was finished. The next morning, my phone rang again. "Is this Clara?" "Yes." "My name is Reji Mehta. I'm the new Safety Compliance Director at Apex Tech. I've reviewed the case files. Your report was correct. The thermal issue could have caused serious injuries. Had it launched, hundreds of customers might have been harmed." I gripped the phone. Finally, the company believed me. Reji explained the board had ordered a complete overhaul of safety protocols and was using my documentation as a case study. "There's more," Reji said. "We'd like to offer you a position on the new compliance team, reporting directly to me. The role comes with a promotion, higher salary, and recognition of your contribution to consumer safety." I was stunned. I hesitated, remembering the anxiety and isolation I had endured. Jada advised caution. "This is a genuine opportunity. but always document everything. Organizational memory is short. Over the next week, more details emerged. The federal investigation uncovered 3 other cases where safety concerns were minimized to meet deadlines. The company's stock dropped 15% in 2 days. I met Reggie at a small cafe off campus. I appreciate the offer, but I need to understand what happened with Victor. Why was he protected so long? Reggie explained the culture, delivery over integrity. People who raised concerns disappeared. Speaking up was career suicide. What happens to him now? I asked. He's terminated, Reggie said. The board reviewed your recordings and evidence. He may face personal liability for suppressing safety information. 2 days later, Diane at the Labor Commission called. Investigation complete. Clear evidence of whistleblower retaliation. The company agreed to a settlement rather than face public hearings. The settlement included a significant financial penalty, mandatory compliance training, and 5 years of audits on whistleblower protection. Victor also faced potential criminal charges for concealing product safety risks. Pamela Ortiz, the original compliance director, emailed me, "I owe you an apology. I should have defended your findings more vigorously." 3 months after filing my complaints, I accepted a position with the State Consumer Protection Agency. Though it paid less, I could now help implement safety standards across industries. On my first day, my director introduced me. Clara brings unique insights into companies that prioritize profits over safety. Her experience helps identify issues before consumers are harmed. Victor's consequences continued. He accepted a plea agreement, substantial fine, community service, probation, and public acknowledgement of his actions, ending his executive prospects. Apex Tech implemented promised safety protocol changes and paid $2.8 million settlement to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. 6 months later, Naomi emailed me an article. Former executive barred from industry after safety scandal. She wrote, "You've become something of a legend, the specialist who brought down a director and changed the company." I felt a quiet satisfaction. My personal cost had been enormous: derailed career, financial setbacks, lost colleagues, lingering anxiety. But I had protected consumers. In my new role, I developed training programs teaching quality specialists to recognize pressure to compromise safety, anonymizing my story as a case study in retaliation and documentation. Some things are worth protecting at any cost: consumer safety, professional integrity, and the responsibility not to harm others for personal gain. My revenge wasn't orchestrating Victor's downfall. It was letting truth and proper systems prevail. If you're facing pressure to cut corners or retaliation for doing what's right, document everything, know your legal protections, and find allies outside your immediate environment. The path is hard, but integrity matters. Thank you for listening. If this story resonates, like, subscribe, and share to help others facing workplace retaliation. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had to make a difficult ethical choice at work. Knowing others have done the same makes our burdens easier to bear.